YouTube? Hope y'all are doing well. So as you can see, today is Saturday. We've been enjoying a little bit of time on the lake. It was a little bit of a long week at work, to be honest with you, but pretty excited about today's video for that reason right there. So as you know, if you watched the last video, I talked about lens focal lengths and how I haven't really been using wide angle lenses for landscape photography. I've kind of been gravitating more towards the telephoto side of things for my landscapes, but the only lens that I have is a Canon 24 to 105 millimeter outside of the 15 to 35 millimeter that I'm shooting on right now. So what I did was I reached out to the team over at Lens Rentals, and they were kind enough to actually send me something. So let's check out what's inside. It's definitely heavy. Okay. Look at that thing. Canon 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 RF lens. This thing looks insane. We're gonna put this thing to use today. So the plan for today is to go out and do some landscape photography exclusively with that 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8. And now my question is whether or not this lens is just overkill for landscape photography. I mean, it is literally $2,700 brand new, and there are so many options on the market for that focal range. And so I'm really curious. I'm gonna put it to use today and try to determine whether or not I personally think it's overkill for landscape photography. But before that, I got to get out of this just horrendous boat / lake clothing and get a shower in. So I'll see you in a couple minutes. Much better. So we are headed to Letchworth State Park, which is a place that I've been to a million times in these videos. And I say this every single time that I go to Letchworth. But I've never actually photographed Letchworth specifically with a telephoto lens. And there are so many different opportunities to photograph it with a telephoto lens because it's a really like grand vista type of place. It's this massive valley that has waterfalls super far off in the distance. And there's a number of situations that I've been in over the past couple of years where I wish I would have had a telephoto lens. I mean, specifically last week, I went there 3 times, 3 days in a row for sunrise, and every single day I was wishing that I had a telephoto lens. So today I have a telephoto lens. It's not a sunrise right now. It's kind of late afternoon light, so it should be solid. It's a little bit overcast. I'm looking forward to it though. It should be able to get some solid photos, and I'm going to kind of explore a number of places that I've typically in the past avoided just because of the fact that I haven't had a telephoto lens. So looking forward to it. Let's get into it. It's happened again. This happened 2 weeks ago at Watkins Glen, and now it's happening here at Letchworth. That sucks. Just because that trail's closed definitely does not mean it's game over for taking photos today, but that was the part of the trails that I was most excited for, unfortunately. There's a number of different trails that I know for a fact are still open because I saw them open when I drove by them a couple of minutes ago, so we're gonna head over to those and check those out instead. So I just stopped right here on the side of the road where there's this awesome view into the valley where you can kind of see that there's this cliff face right here, and then there's a gap in the valley, and then there's another cliff face behind it, kind of with trees all along it. You can see the trees at the very top of the cliff, and I think that this spot has a ton of potential. Right now with the lighting, it's kind of tough just because taking this photo, I've looked at it on the back of my camera, it's kind of difficult to decipher like which cliff is the front and which is the back, but having the 70 to 200 millimeter lens has allowed for me for the first time to really punch in on this view. I've looked at this like a million times driving by it, but I think that this has potential, as I've said a million times already. because in the morning during sunrise, the sun actually sets kind of, or rises around that bend in the valley. So theoretically I could come here and the sun would rise and it would be lighting up just that cliff face on the back. So this one in the front would not be lighting up, just the one in the back. And so I would be able to kind of silhouette this cliff face. You would be able to see the treetops, but then on the back side of it, you would see that the sun is actually lighting up all the trees as well as the cliff face. And that's something that I think I might have to come back here to test out. So I'll show you the photo that I just took with the 70-200, but I think I'm going to come back here again with different weather conditions, just so that I can try to get a touch of light either on the front side of the cliffs or on the back side of the cliffs, just to give it a little bit more dimension. As you're looking at the photo right now, you can kind of see that it's tough to tell what you're looking at. You really can't tell exactly what's going on just because there's no real light defining which is the front cliff, which is the back cliff. Obviously, since I've now explained to you what the photo is, you can understand it. But I think with better lighting conditions and just either the front or the back being lit up by more harsh sunlight, I guess, I think the photo would be really solid. So you might remember this spot from last week's video. This is actually the spot that I came to 3 days in a row for sunrise last week. And right now the lighting conditions are entirely different. The sun typically rises, at least this time of year, literally a straight shot down this valley. And so it makes for really interesting photos. But right now, it's probably like 7 o'clock at night. It's really, really overcast today. So the conditions are completely different. But the sun is popping in and out of the clouds every once in a while, and it's kind of casting little shards of light all over this valley. And so I've been sitting here for probably, call it 10 minutes now, trying to make a couple photos, waiting for the light to hit in certain different spots. And it's making for really interesting photos because I've never been able to make photos at such a long focal length. I've been shooting at like 135 millimeters, 200 millimeters, things like that. Whereas previously with my other lens, I only would shoot around 105 millimeters at the longest end. And so it's giving a really cool compression effect where you can kind of see the rolling hills of this valley, and then ideally good shards of light coming in from the sun periodically when the clouds are moving. And so I really like these photos, and I'll show you my favorite one from this spot right here. It's starting to rain, so I don't have much time. That's why I haven't really shot any B-roll here. But I think that this is actually my favorite shot of the day. This is a spot, like I said, that I've been to a million times and I've never photographed it well. But right now, with this 70-200, cropped in all the way to 200 millimeters, 2-second timer, 1.3 second exposure at f8, ISO 100, and this is the photo. So the question that I set out to answer today is whether or not this lens right here is overkill for landscape photography. And personally, my take is that yes, it kind of is overkill for landscape photography. As a landscape photographer, I don't really shoot past f8 or so. Typically shooting around f8, f11, f16, very, very stopped down apertures because I want the entire image to be sharp from the foreground to the background, typically. Sometimes I'll shoot at like f5.6 or f4 or something like that, but very, very rarely will I want to shoot landscapes at f2.8. The one thing that I would say might make this lens worth it, instead of some of Canon's EF alternatives that'll work perfectly with an adapter on this camera, is that it's much, much smaller than those alternatives. Because it has this protruding front element, as you can see right here, it packs it down significantly when you're storing it in your bag. In addition to that, it's much lighter than any of the f2.8 Canon alternatives. And when you're using an f2.8 or an f4 Canon EF alternative, you have to put an adapter onto it as well, which adds an additional probably inch onto the lens when it's on your camera or being stored in your bag. And so for those two reasons, number one, the fact that it's significantly smaller and it's significantly lighter, that might make this lens worth it. But other than that, As a landscape photographer, you'd probably be better off saving money and going with one of the Canon EF alternatives. One last thing that I need to say before I wrap this video up is thank you to the sponsor of today's video, who is Lens Rentals. Like I said earlier in the video, Lens Rentals was kind enough to send me out this lens to test out, which is really, really awesome. Lens Rentals is not just a company that I heard of last week because they were willing to send me out a lens. I actually have been using Lens Rentals myself for literally, I think, the past 3 years. Every wedding that I've ever shot, I've used Lens Rentals. Every gig that I've done for a company I've shot, I've used Lens Rentals, renting cameras, lenses, all kinds of stuff. They are awesome. They have just about every single camera manufacturer that you would want. All the lenses, whether you want Leica lenses, Canon lenses, Sony lenses, Panasonic lenses, whatever. They have all of them in stock. And to be honest, their pricing is extremely, extremely reasonable. One of the things that I would suggest to anybody out there who is considering buying a lens, for example, like this 70-200 that I have over there on my tripod right now, before you go out and buy that lens, go to Lens Rentals and test it out. Just get it for a week. It's only going to cost $50 or something like that, and it could potentially save you $2,000 if you decide that maybe that lens is just not for you. If you want to go to Lens Rentals and you want to test something out, I actually have a coupon code right now that you can type in on the site. It's Weber15. Lens Rentals is a really awesome service, and definitely let them know that I sent you by typing in Weber15 at checkout to save 15%. Thanks, Lens Rentals, for sponsoring this video. The weather actually cleared up quite a bit, and I'm just enjoying the sunset right over here, but let's chat real quick before I wrap the video up. So a big reason why I got this 70-200 from Lens Rentals is actually because I'm doing a trip on Monday. I'm actually heading out to Jackson Hole, Wyoming to do a whole bunch of photography out there, and I am super, super excited. I did not just get this 70-200 to shoot it all around kind of my house and the various landscapes around my house. I got it so that I could bring it to Jackson Hole. I am super, super excited. Gonna check out Grand Teton National Park, do a bunch of different hikes, things like that. Super, super pumped. First time that I've been out of town in literally like 5-6 months. I think I had 4 trips canceled over the past 4 months because of coronavirus and things like that. So now that things are opening up, getting the heck out of here, going out west. We're gonna do some landscape photography. Anyways, guys, thanks as always for watching. I appreciate it big time. If you enjoyed the video, definitely go down below, give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel out a ton, and I really, really appreciate it. If you're interested in seeing more videos from me, I make videos like this every single week, so definitely go down below and hit that subscribe button, and I'll plan on seeing you in the next one. Peace.